All right, hello and welcome to the PDL Draft explanation video. I'm going to be explaining a little bit about the Pokemon that I picked up, why I picked them up, what I think, and, the kind of like ideas that form in my head when I try to make teams, etc. So the first thing that I'll start off with is that I made a draft explanation video a little bit beforehand that kind of explained a little bit about the way I think about Pokemon and the way that I expressed two main ideas that I want to try to get across and prove when I use this draft. The first is the idea of having a mental framework, right? The idea that you should always be trying to find a way that you understand Pokemon outside of Pokemon that allows you to like apply that to the meta. And the second is about efficiency and the way that I see the game. And I care about like making things as making sure that when you draft, you're drafting the right things as like if it's cheap, you want to get cheap stuff. If you think it's like valuable in that frame, I talked about Moneyball, and the best thing I talked about was my idea of like soccer and how I believe that um, you can attribute Pokemon in a lot of ways to soccer in the way that you play the matches. So I drafted my team in a little bit of a soccer formation, right? Because I wanted to show a little bit about how I think um, the game should be played. And so, as I said before, soccer is a game about scoring more goals than your opponent, in the same way that Pokemon is a game about getting 6 kills before your opponent does. So, my goal is to get as many kills as possible and funneling everything through my two strikers right here. So I've got my two center forwards, and that's what I'm going to start with, and then everything will funnel up. I'll have my midfielder that will be able to like funnel balls in there. I'll have two winger midfielders type people that can like provide their own win conditions while simultaneously helping me out in other ways. I got my defensive people, my fullbacks, my center backs, everything else like that, and then we'll build up the attack from the back upward. Providing solid defense that will create a wall that will bounce things back for the midfielders to be able to create momentum out of nothing, and then bring it back into forwards that can turn momentum into kills, right? Making everything, it's basically a formula, right? If nothing can get past the back wall, then something will eventually be able to get picked up by one of the midfielders who can turn nothing into momentum, free momentum. And then you have killers, attackers that can turn momentum into kills. So I'm going to start off with obviously my attack here. I've got my first pick is Cinderace. I love this Pokemon. It's literally my favorite Pokemon. Works really well with heavy duty boots, band, scarf, anything like that. It basically is one of the most free attackers in the game, in my opinion. It's got the most important thing is this speed right here, this 119 speed that forces a lot of solid speed tiers and allows it to outspeed a whole lot, and a solid attack along with high base power attacks. 120 Pyro Ball, 130 high jump kick, 120 jump gunk shot. You have your sucker punch, your U-turn, your Will-O-Wisp utility, court change, 110 acrobatics if you don't have an item, and all of those are boosted by your Libera, which basically makes them 1.5 boost. You get stab boost on any move you want, in addition to things like sword stance, etc. The ability to set up, the ability to change your type, the ability to have constant utility. Cinderace is just a Pokemon that I view. It can turn any amount of momentum you get into something that can force your opponent down. Right? If you've got like there's plenty of teams that will lose or not outright lose, but like they have a hard time switching into Pyro Ball, and Cinderace can turn that hard time switching it. If you can keep repeating back into Cinderace, and Cinderace is an easy Pokemon to flow into, it will eventually wear down that team and outspeed everything enough to kill with Pyro Balls. Or if you have a team that is like they have solid tanks, but those tanks, if you've got things that are super effective against them, then they might lose to Cinderace. Then you can just always be threatening kills with things like if you've got acrobatics, you've got Zen headbutts, you've got sword stance to boost up, things like that. Cinderace is really really good in that regard, and it's got U-turn to chip things down. Um, and so I don't know. Cinderace is one of those Pokemon that I view as like as versatile as possible, and as a Pokemon that kills and get momentum. Also, I didn't mention it before, but yeah, it's April Fool's when I'm recording this, so I've got my little fun guys over here. I just figured that that would be like the best time for it. I keep delaying the draft thing, and so I figured that it would be a fun little addition to have. So next up is my secondary striker. I've got my Gardevoir Mega here. I've got 165 special attack, 135 speed or speed def rather, and 100 speed. And those three stats, min maxing out for the best stats are really important because that means because really there's not very many things that are taking hyper voice, and when you've got the speed to leverage it, speed and power are the most efficient ways to get kills. And so when you've got the power to leverage it on one side and the speed to leverage on the other side, you've got two solid forms of attack. And Gardevoir's also got Destiny Bond to trade out if I ever need to, and Healing Wish to provide extra like bonus support to the other striker. And Cinderace is obviously breaking things down for Gardevoir to eventually be able to just pop them, and so that way the checks don't have anything. Where Cinderace is constantly earning momentum back, Gardevoir is maximizing the potential of the momentum. And I still have, things like Teleport, things like Will-O-Wisp, things like Trick Room. But overall, I'm mostly just hitting Hyper Voice as much as possible, hitting Psychics when I can. I've got Encores, I've got Subs, I've got Calm Minds. Those are the real important things, So being able to break things down as much as possible is going to be really strong with these two. And then obviously, as I said before, I'm gonna need my offensive midfielder here. I'm gonna need something to play to these two strikers. So in my opinion, I've got the best momentum Pokemon in the game. Regenerator Alomomola here. Looks like a love disc. We've got, Flip Turn, Healing Wish, just Wish passing in general with Regenerator. Basically the most free Pokemon, in my opinion, in the game. The Pokemon that turns just backwards momentum into free momentum. And a lot of people, think that Alomomola is a little too passive. I would generally disagree. Partly the reason being that, you've got your Rocky Helmet here. As long as I'm not being forced to run heavy duty boots every single game, Alomomola will always be able to spread chip with Flip Turn and Rocky Helmet. And, healing is something that I think a lot of people take it or take for granted. Putting up that great wall in the background, that could, it's kind of like healing is like stamina in a way, right? If I can wear down the enemy team's stamina by having constant attacks, it doesn't matter how good their defenders are. And that's what Alomomola is really good at leveraging, is allowing, those people who can't continuously go back the ability to, or like basically being able to leverage the stamina on them. And Alomola's got that in spades with Wish and Protect and Healing Wish, Regenerator, etc. So this Pokemon right here, and it's slow enough that these flip turns are always going to be healing, doing damage, and getting me out into one of my attackers, which is especially strong. And so obviously I'm going to pair that up here with my next Pokemon, Vikavolt, another slow Volt Switch Pokemon here, so that way I can keep passing into these strong, fast attackers, as well as also, having its own strong attack, Volt Switch, Discharge, etc. This is my Terra Pokemon. I've got I got Terra Water. I've got Terra. Oh, it's not Terra Fairy. It's Terra Steel and Terra Electric. Here, obviously, this Pokemon can run Agility. It can run Sticky Web to pair up with my attackers. I've got Thunderbolt, Iron Defense, Flash Cannons. This Pokemon I think can set up in numerous ways. I can run Throat Sprays. And it's just got that amazing attack stat once again. So when I'm spreading these Volt Switches, it's going to be really solid. I just wanted another Pokemon. It's off the ground, so obviously it's going to pair up well with Cinderace. And Alomola is good on that physical side, where Guard is good on the special side. Vikavolt, adds another good Fizz Def Pokemon to it, as well to kind of pair with Aloe. And it's another water type. I believe in having an offensive water and a defensive water, so I believe that that's really good. He kind of acts as like my winger in a way. He's kind of his own win condition sometimes when he wants to be. So I really appreciate that. And now I'm going to start, building up my defense here. So talking about Aegislash, I actually did pick up Aegislash a little bit before this, but I'm kind of talking about him in an order. So I'm going to build up, I've built up my offense really well, but now I'm going to start filling out some of these center backs because I wanted to make a really strong core. So I've got Aegislash right here, and you've got Chansey right next to it, right? And these right here, you've got Ghost Immunity, Fighting Immunity, normal immunity, poison immunity. That alone, just Aegislash has got so many immunities, and with Chansey being able to be the Great Wall on that special side, pairs really well with Aloe, really well to create momentum. Chansey's got Teleport and Soft Boiled, so it pairs really well there. And Aegislash with so many immunities is like a stopper. So where Chansey is the kind of Pokemon that can heal up and stall out that game and hold up the ball, like hold up plays, Aegislash is the kind of Pokemon that will counter plays. He's going to steal the ball. He's going to reverse the momentum. I've got King Shield, I've got Sword Stance, and with all those immunities, I'm always getting attacks with Shadow Balls and things like that, right? My goal with Aegislash is to hit Shadow Ball as much as possible, to be honest. I'm always wanting to hit these buttons because Ghost Stab is one of those things that just people don't have a whole lot for. And that's another thing that I'm focusing on is getting stabs that people can't handle. Fire Stab paired with Fighting Stab, Fairy Stab paired with Psychic Stab, Electric Stab paired with Water Stab. So Ghost Stab right here is something that not a lot of people have, and I paired it up with this fighting, with fighting coverage and Iron Defense, SD, Sword or Shadow Sneak, Toxic, King Shield that I can spam. This Pokemon loves to have lefties as well, so this is another Pokemon that I'm going to really, really enjoy not having to take hazards with. I do think that hazards is something that I'm going to have to start focusing on here in a second because I've only got my webs so far, but obviously Chansey right here, picking up my Stealth Rock, literally the Great Wall right here. Natural Cure, so between Chansey and Alomomola, I'm really never worrying about whatever status conditions are coming my way. I can run Serene Grace whenever I want. I've got the Stealth Rock. I've got Seismic Toss. Seismic Toss is a universal attack. I've talked about this before, but I believe that universal attacks are something that's really good, and I think that every Pokemon on my team has a really good attack. Cinderace, Pyro Ball, Hyper Voice from Guard, Flip Turn from Alomomola that gets Chip and gets you out. Volt Switch from Vika that's really strong, and really any of its stabs. Shadow Ball and Aegislash, Chansey, Seismic Toss. Everything has a really strong attack, so I'm never worrying about it. I've got counters, I've got endeavors, I've got healing wishes. Oh, I guess endeavor on Chansey isn't going to be good, but I've got healing wishes. I've got reflect light screen, teleport for slow immunities. I've got another wish passer, so I've got a special wish passer and a physical wish passer. So Chansey pairs really well with Aegislash. I think that overall it's just another great wall to have as my two center backs right here. Chansey, Aegislash, the Unbreakable Core, pairing up well with my midfielder here. Adding on to another defensive Pokemon, I've got a Rapid Spin Avalugg here. Had to be able to set my rocks, had to be able to get those rocks off. I needed that removal. So this is also my Terra Pokemon. Terra, Ice, Ground, and yes, Ice, Ground, and Fairy. Sorry, I had to check, make sure I'm correct. And this Pokemon was really cheap too. I'm not really going over the point values here, but I will say that Cinderace, Gardevoir, all these Pokemon are really cheap. Like we've got the point values go from about 1 to 20, right? Cinderace is like a 16 pointer, I believe. Guard is a 16. Aloe's was 13, I believe. Vika was 10. Egg was 15, I believe. Chansey's 10. This is 5. Everything is really cheap, and I'm bringing out the value of my team in its synergy. I believe that every single Pokemon I have here, I believe could be higher than it is, but people just undervalue it, or when I try to and I'm on the team that tries to get things moved up, but when sometimes things don't always get moved up in that way, and I believe that if you want to make a point, you have to prove it. So I'm here to prove that these Pokemon deserve to be put upwards. So Avalugg, definitely one of these Pokemon that I want to put up. It's got Sturdy. This Pokemon, with the ground type, this is just discount and Dawn fan, to be honest. I'm a really big Dawn fan. And with the Sturdy here, I really wish he got Endeavor. That'd be an amazing investment, but he does have the Rapid Spin, the Stealth Rock, and I can always get that off because of the Sturdy. I can always run Custap if I want to. He's got that Stab Avalanche. I've got Ice Spinner to get rid of the terrain. I've got Mirror Coat, so if I ever want to run Assault Vest and Mirror Coat, that's really strong. Recovery is something that Donphan doesn't have, so Recover Avalugg is really, really strong in my opinion. Toxic here. I think that this Pokemon is just really solid with its defense. I can run Body Press along with that. I don't need to have it stabbed because this defense just makes it already so good. And because its defense is great, I can invest in and Spadef, just like things like Pokemon like Mega Aggron can. When you've got so much base defense, you don't need to invest in it. So this is just a really, really strong min-max Pokemon. In the same way that Gardevoir is a min-max Pokemon, Avalugg is trying to do the same thing here. And I really like the fact that it's removing my hazards. So, and I've got another thing here. I've talked about having good attacks, right? Ice ground is coverage that everything, like it covers everything. So you've always got stab ice, always got stab ground. And another Pokemon to do the same thing, I've got Mamoswine. And these Pokemon kind of look like the same thing, but they're doing completely different things. Because Mamoswine is more offensive, I've got more speed. I'm focusing more on attack here. I've got more Stealth Rock. This guy does have Endeavor, so if I ever want to run Endeavor here, I got that. Earthquake plus Ice Shard. I've got the Ice Shard there. I've got knockoff there. This Pokemon is basically the other part of Donphan. I've got the knockoff, the Ice Shards. The really strong Earthquakes, the Trailblazes instead of the Agilities. The Endeavors. This is the Pokemon that is the other half of that. But I can run Ban. I can run Life Orb, Adamant, Mamoswine. You know what I'm talking about? The Thick. I've got Thick, Fat, and Oblivious, so I can be immune to Intimidate, immune to Taunt. This Pokemon is just really strong. I believe in it a lot, so I can do a whole lot with these. And I've got a really good attack going. Mamoswine is kind of like my other winger in a way, compared to like where Vikavolt is. Mamoswine's trying to be a win condition in and of itself. So now, I'm kind of filling out my team here. I'm just kind of filling out my defense, filling out my midfielders, trying to find more things to go around. And so I've obviously got my Decidueye here. Next up, now this is a team draft, so I do have teammates here, and one of my teammates convinced me to pick this guy up because he's really good. He's got like some decent SPDF, he's got some decent attack stats here, he's got triple axles. I really wanted more knockoff on my team. I believe that really heavily that hazards are a really important way to win the game. I didn't focus too much on getting a knockoff in the beginning. I think that maybe something like Meowscarada, like I had a team originally that had Meowscarada instead of Cinderace, and I'd use that to great effect. And knockoff and spikes were really, really, really valuable. But I really wanted to build this team with Cinderace because obviously it's my favorite Pokemon. So I felt like having, knockoff down here, and Drapion also is going to have its knockoff and it's going to have its T-spikes, taunt as really important moves. I felt like this utility was going to be really strong. I also wanted a grass type to be immune to Spore, have another Defogger to get rid of those hazards, have a good U-turn, have a good SD, Trailblaze, Synthesis to heal, bulk up, setup. I just think that this Pokemon can do a lot. I also really heavily believe in Chestnut. And this Pokemon, though it is not Chestnut, can be comparable. So I think that we're going to have to see how this guy goes. But I'm not entirely convinced by him just yet. And we've also got Drapion, and the same is true of him. He's got mid attack, but his defense is really powerful, and I'm really hoping to see that. I also really believe that Poison Dark is a really strong stab. I wanted a Alolan Muck, but it just didn't come around my way fast enough. Obviously, we're getting late in the draft at this point. But he's got his iron defenses, he's got his knockoffs, his SDs, the ability to crit, Whirlwind to send people out, phasing people out is really good. I really wish I had spikes, but I settled for toxic spikes with this guy right here. Things like Roserade got drafted, and I couldn't get that up either. That was something I was really looking for. But I don't know. I really think that this Pokemon is going to have to show me what it's doing too. I can run Assault Vest with this guy, but this is, team filling for the rest of my team right now. I do think that these guys might be subject to change, so don't mark my words just yet. These guys could pop off, but I'm not looking too heavy at these guys right now. But I always think that there's room to experiment and try things out. And the last thing I've got is Diglett here. I had 1 point left. I was like looking at the board. I was like, what 1 pointer is probably the best thing around? And I found my Diglett here. Got Arena Trap, Earthquake, Sucker Punch. He is Terra Dark, Ground, and Steel. So Steel Iron Head, Steel Sucker Punch, Memento, trap people in, Sword Stance. Maybe if I trap the right guy in, and I can just SD up a bunch of times on it. If he's like trapped into Volt Switch or something. I have an Endeavor. Maybe I can Sash Endeavor somebody. Fear with, Sucker Punch. Who knows? But I do think that Diglett, is just a fun little guy to have. So this is my team. I don't, we are, like, my team name is the Z.A.M. We're the Zapdos, Articuno, Moltres squad. But, we're based on you could call us the Alakazam Council, the Z.A.M. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this season and using all of these Pokemon to great effect. I'm really trying to, wall everybody out with Aegislash, Chansey, and Aloe and Avalugg, and really just put a giant wall down, and then funnel everybody through using Chansey, Vikavolt, and Aloe to just funnel my attack into the rest of my guys here, my Cinderaces, my Gardevoir, my Drapion, my Decidueye, really just trying to, even my Mamo, I'm really just trying to funnel all my attacks right to the front and hopefully secure as many kills as I possibly can against my opponent. So utilizing my strikers, I think, is going to be the most important part of this season, and we're going to see how well that works for me. So yeah, I hope you guys, tune in for the, when I go over the week one. I have played it. I have, I'm building it up to it. So I'm not going to reveal what happens if we win or lose. But I will tell you guys, I'm really confident in this season, and I'm really confident in this team. So, we're gonna, just look forward to that week one, and I'll make sure to get it out to you guys real soon. All right. Goodbye.